Good morning and welcome to Big Bets on Campus Live. It is 10:30 a.m. and we're giving you our best bets for today's slate of college football games. And what a big slate we have today. So go ahead, get your popcorn ready, as Lynn Kiffin would say. I'm your host, Stephanie Otey, alongside with the most successful college handicappers, Collin Wilson and Stuckey, as well as our college football insider, Brett McMurphy. Now, everything we talk about, picks, data, all of that will be available on the award-winning Action Network app, and make sure you stay tuned for the Moneyline round robin later in the show. And I'll call lots of action this morning. The board is completely lit up. What has caught your eye the most this morning?
Yeah, definitely the board is moving much more. I think as weather becomes a bigger factor, as we get deeper into October and into November, we're going to see even more money on totals, which is really the story this morning. Ohio State and Maryland, total of 69.5, not just cross 70, 71.5, and continuing to climb. Despite, Mayan Williams and some injuries being there for Ohio State, this number is going up. No defense is expected. And I'm not sure who rolls out of bed and says, I need to bet Akron football. But this morning, Akron went from plus 14.5 down to 13.5. And within the last 5 minutes, those 13.5s got snapped right back up to 14. So there is some Bowling Green support going up against people that are maybe either shaping Akron or they actually have some intel. But a really interesting move this morning. Michigan State and Rutgers, that total has gone from 52 down to 49.5. I've not seen a clear status on Bo Melton. I think he's expected to be out for this game. So there could be a grind and not a lot of explosive plays if you look at Rutgers defense. I think we'll get into that. And Iowa, the money has been steady all week, and the money is showing up this morning. I believe they're up to about 70% total handle. Those minus ones have all disappeared. We're at about minus 2.5 across the board. It's going to make an even juicier money line. So Hawkeyes are definitely getting all the love in the market. Now, a team that always plays close games and can never pull it off is Nebraska. And Scott Frost seemingly always has these leads or is tied going into the fourth quarter. Well, that point spread this morning went from plus 3.5 down to plus 2.5. And if you think about that Michigan State game or them going to overtime again, that's a huge move from plus 3.5 to 2.5. You would definitely want to be a buyer of corn at 3 or better, not at 2.5. And East Carolina against Central Florida. Central Florida absolutely laid an egg against Navy last week. This week, East Carolina coming in. That number has finally broken the ceiling of 10. It's down to 9.5. So East Carolina plus 9.5. Everybody's on the Pirates this morning. And then a second week in a row, I'll go ahead and mention it. Sacred Heart was plus 6 when I woke up early this morning. It's now down to plus 2.5 against Merrimack. I don't know what's going on at the FCS level, but Sacred Heart is taking massive money on Saturday morning. So just another week in college football.
I thought you were going to note on that one. You mentioned it last week. That's a good catch this morning. Now it's time to get into our best bets. But before everyone gives their top play of the day, let's take a look at the leaderboard. Some changes this week. Colin's still at the top, but we have a new runner-up as Stuckey leaps over Brett for second place. And credit to Brett. He's actually the one who pointed that out to our team. Keeping it classy here on Big Bets on Campus Live, but it is a tight race with Brett and Stuckey separated by just one loss. So it'll be exciting to see how this week goes. Stuckey, you had a little bit of a panic this morning thinking that your phone dies and you thought you missed the show. I'm glad you made it. But let's see what your top play of the week is as you had 2 straight weeks hitting on that best bet.
Yeah, Mr. McMurphy, Mr. 6-0 needs a 6-0 week here. So we'll see what he brings to the table. I'm bringing my trusty die back. It worked last weekend, so don't try to fix what's not broken. For my best bet of the weekend, let's go down to Lane Stadium tonight for Virginia Tech money line against Notre Dame. The situational spot is just awful for Notre Dame. They played a bunch of physical games in a row. They've pretty much had their college football playoff hopes dashed last week against Cincinnati. This is a team that was just skating by. They could have lost to Florida State. They could have lost to Toledo, et cetera, et cetera. And, now they're going down to Blacksburg on a Saturday night to play a Virginia Tech team that comes off a bye, fresh, 2 weeks to prepare. And from a matchup perspective, this Virginia Tech pass defense has been really strong. And that's a problem for a Notre Dame team that simply cannot run the ball. Virginia Tech's offense, not the best unit in the country, but I think that they can do enough on the ground here to sustain enough drives. Give me Va Tech.
Yeah, I absolutely love that play, and I am with Stuckey on that. I want Virginia Tech to win this game so him and I can quit talking about Notre Dame in the marquee segment. But for me, I'm going 2 weeks in a row on Bo Nix. This is going to be the second week in a row for Auburn as my best bet. Currently at plus 15, take all the points that you can get against Georgia. It's an inflated Georgia Bulldogs market after what they did to Arkansas last year. But think about this. This is the first hostile environment they've actually been in this year. Stetson Bennett only threw the ball 11 times last week in relief of JT Daniels, who we believe is still hurt, still can't throw downfield. And Stetson Bennett throwing 11 times versus Georgia running, I think, over 50 times. That's going to be the same formula here because Auburn is top 10 in the secondary, top 10 in coverage grading per PFF. Smoke Monday, Roger McCreary coming to an NFL screen soon. As for scoring points, Arkansas is an explosive but predictable offense. Auburn is not a predictable offense whatsoever. They can go heavy run with Tank Bigsby and Jarquez Hunter straight through the tackles up the middle. And then there's Bo Nix having the best season of his career. This sounds crazy from a big-time throw perspective. And what he does in a crowded pocket, he actually has a 3% adjusted completion rate higher than a clean pocket. So Bo Nix is getting it done this year. This is a great home spot for Auburn against a Georgia team that every gambling consumer wants to have a piece of. I'm taking, the War Eagle, crying all day.
Yeah, Stuckey, thanks for pointing it out. I started 6-0. I've gone 0-60 since that first show. But look, this is a very special week for me. It was 105 years ago this week. I gave out my first ever lock of the week. That's right. I released Georgia Tech minus 221.5 to all of my clients, and Georgia Tech delivered, beating Cumberland 222-0. Yeah, it was a sweat at the end, but it came through. This week, I have another lock of the year. It is guaranteed not to lose. Here it is. The Master Lock Combination Padlock Model H 1391, my lock of the week. As far as this week's best bet, it involves Georgia Tech, of course. John Heisman is no longer coaching the Yellow Jackets, so I'm going with David Cutcliffe and a Duke team that's undefeated at home. Give me Duke +4.
I like it. Let's get into this week's slate with our Havoc round, diving into the most actionable spots on today's college football slate, and we have some great ones. Kicking it off with the Red River Showdown. Undefeated yet still questionable, 6th-ranked Oklahoma takes on Steve Sarkisian in his first Red River rivalry as a Texas head coach. On the other side, Spencer Rattler has played in this big high-pressure game, and he did well, 260 total yards, 4 touchdowns in last year's 4 overtime victory. Based on the difference between Brett's AP ballot and Collin's power rankings, I don't think you guys will be unanimous on this one. Brett, how's it looking for you?
Yeah, I've covered my share of Oklahoma-Texas games. It's held each October in Dallas with the Texas State Fair going on literally right outside the Cotton Bowl at the same times. During these years, I've learned 2 things regarding Texas and Oklahoma. 1, never, ever, I repeat, try the deep fried beer at the Texas State Fair. I did, and it was horrible. 2, expect the unexpected in this series. This marks the 13th consecutive year Texas is an underdog against Oklahoma. In the last 9 years, the Longhorns are 7-2 against the spread with 3 outright upsets. As bad as that deep fried beer was, the Sooners' offensive line has not been much better. Texas has been a different team with Casey Thompson at quarterback. Give me Texas plus the 3.5. Hook 'em.
Listen, I love Steve Sarkisian and I love Casey Thompson. If you listen to Brett and I on Sources podcast, on the Big Bets on Campus podcast that comes out on Tuesdays, we are big fans of Texas football, but we're big fans of Texas offense. The handicap in this game is a failing Texas defense, near dead last in passing success rate, along with a havoc rank and a pass rush that's outside the top 100. There's going to be no pressure applied to Spencer Rattler whatsoever. And Kennedy Gray and Eric Brooks were having problems running the ball earlier this season. If you listen to the podcast, I think Stuckey will have something to say about this. We expect big games out of them here. And this is a defense for Texas that allows more explosive plays than anybody else in the FBS. Boomer Sooner for me.
Oh, I like how you had to get that some nice words in for Stark, who I believe follows you on Twitter. Brett, I also need to hear more about this deep fried beer. How does it come? Is it like?
How do you even make it?
They capsulize the beer in a little pocket, and then they basically deep fry it inside of like a hush puppy. So you think hey, it's fried food, it's beer, two things I like. The problem is the beer's hot. Yeah, don't do it. I spit it out.
That sounds awful. All right, let me break the tie here. I'm going also with Oklahoma. I agree with Collin here. Look, first of all, the Oklahoma defense, it can be exploited deep. There's some questions in the secondary, particularly at safety. I don't think this Texas offense is built to exploit some of those deficiencies. And the Oklahoma run defense has been excellent. They can contain Bijan Robinson here. The other side of the ball, the Oklahoma offense has been underwhelming. Number one, the Texas defense has not been playing well. Third defensive coordinator in 3 years. I still think they're trying to find their identity. Oklahoma has been experimenting with, some different blocking formations on the offensive line. They went back to their original identity last week. I expect that to pay off this week. Spencer Rattler's been playing well, 37 of his last 41. I think you're getting Oklahoma cheap here. Boomer sooner.
Yep, we talked about this. Might be a Heisman game for Rattler. But let's take a look at our Twitter poll. Looks like the public is siding with Collin and Stuckey, taking Oklahoma 57%, siding with them. Now, this rivalry always seems to come down to the wire, but we have another big rivalry between number 2 Georgia and number 18 Auburn, dating back to 1892, with the Bulldogs winning 13 of the last 16. Auburn is a 15-point underdog at home with a total of 47. Georgia has allowed less than 5 points a game through the first 5 games, and they haven't even allowed a single point in the last 2. Collin, you wrote on this yesterday. Auburn's offense scored 15 of 16 attempts in the red zone this season. Do you think Auburn can keep that going against Georgia's top-ranked defense?
Yeah, I mean, this was my best bet. So Auburn is the bet. And, just to be real short and give an additional bet, if you guys are out there, Clemson neutral site in Charlotte, that doesn't count. Vanderbilt doesn't count. This Jordan Hare is absolutely going to be wild, hostile environment. Auburn has the multidimensional offense. So, yeah, Auburn is the play. But if you got a little couch change sitting around, maybe it fell out of your pocket and it's in your couch, I would lay Auburn first half money line here. Mike Bobo is a great offensive coordinator. I think they're going to come up with a plan at least to do something. And Stetson Bennett, I have no faith in throwing deep against this secondary. So Auburn first half money line, in addition to my best bet, which is Auburn.
Look, I agree. It sounds like Collin is just really, really salty still from what Georgia did to his Hogs last weekend. But I actually agree with him. I'm nowhere near as confident. I'm not going to start talking about money line and couch change here, but this is just a numbers play for me. Over 2 touchdowns. I think that Auburn is a bit inflated. We also get Bo Nix. It's Bo Nix season at home, where he's played a lot better throughout his career. So give me the Tigers. Are you going to make this a clean sweep, Brett?
Yeah, I'll actually agree with you guys on this one. Look, how dominating have the Dogs been? Georgia's defense has scored more touchdowns this year than it has allowed. We'll see if they can keep that trend going. I agree with both of you guys. Auburn has one of the SEC's top secondaries. So I don't think Kirby Smart's going to want to take a lot of chances downfield, especially if Stetson Bennett is in at quarterback. Like Stuckey said, the Bo Nix effect. No interceptions so far this year. Hopefully he doesn't implode today. I think conservative Kirby takes over in this one. He'll rely on a run-heavy offense, shorten the clock. That allows Auburn to stay within the 15. I'll go War Eagle.
All right, a unanimous underdog. This next matchup has had a lot of movement. I'm not sure if you guys will be unanimous on this one. 4th-ranked Penn State heads to the 3rd-ranked Iowa. The Hawkeyes opened as a 3-point favorite after jumping Penn State in last week's rankings, but it's gone down. And now you guys pointed out earlier, Collin, where do you see the value in the line movement here?
Yeah, this is I mentioned in the big board movement that this has gone all Iowa money all week, and now it's going all Iowa money this morning up to 2.5. I expect extreme pushback if it gets to 3 for people that want to back Penn State, but so far no sharp money coming in on that this morning. Listen, this is one of the hardest handicaps on the board. It doesn't matter if you're in the numbers or out of the numbers. These are 2 defenses and 2 sets of special teams that can score at any time in the game. And the real handicap for me for taking the over in this game is the emergence of Spencer Petras. Now, I know that Maryland had 7 turnovers, and if you're just blindly thinking Iowa won that game because Maryland just coughed it up all, on every single possession, you didn't pay attention to what Spencer Petras has been able to do. Stuckey and I podcasted during the summer and said he has no targets. He doesn't know any of these people that he's throwing to. We know that he's got players, but he's not familiar with them. Now he is. Last week, Tyler Goodson, the running back, had a 67-yard pass. Charlie Jones doing his best. Julian Edelman, he had a 31-yard catch. Spencer Petras hit 9 different targets last week. He is very comfortable, and he has a cannon for an arm. So, for Penn State, it's going to be all pass for them. They can't run the ball whatsoever. One of the worst in the nation in rushing success rate. Clifford has the ability to throw 3 touchdowns under Mike Yurcich. His offensive coordinator has been doing great things, but he has the ability to implode and throw 3 pick sixes. So I'm taking over 41, and I would tell everybody out there, don't take over 41.5. 41 is in one of the top 5 key numbers in college football totals. It hits 2.8% of the time of all college football games. So 41 is the buying point. Don't go over 41.5. Stay at 41.
Look, this is Iowa. I am a convert. Now, they better not let me down today. I'm going Iowa. I actually disagree with Collin on the total. I like the under, but agree with him on the number. Like, I wouldn't go under 40.5. You want to get over 41, so that's a key number. But when I look at this game, it should be a slugfest. You're also going to have wins, and there's 2 good punters. It's going to be a field position battle. The difference, small advantages for Iowa here. The home field advantage, obviously, at Kinnick. And then you have, look, special teams, field position, penalties. Iowa always finds themselves on the positive end of those. They're just a well-coached teams under Ferentz. And look, Penn State can't run the ball, as Collin alluded to. I can't see Sean Clifford sustaining drives through the air against this Iowa no-fly zone. Riley Moss, Hankins, and company are going to dominate this game. Iowa, with those little things, will be the difference in a low-scoring game. Give me the Hawkeyes. Don't let me down, Iowa City.
Stuckey, you made a very compelling case for Iowa, and I'll add to it. At Penn State, James Franklin is 0-7 in true road games versus top 10 teams. Only one of those games was decided by fewer than 11 points. They have not been competitive. And then Iowa, 14-1 in its last 15 games, is a favorite of 4 points or less. However, Penn State quarterback Sean Clifford has thrived under new offensive coordinator Mike Yurcich. When everyone zigs, I will zag. I'm going contrarian, major contrarian. Give me the Nittany Lions plus the points.
All right. Well, hopefully Jimbo Fisher has more notes on Nick Saban than Lane Kiffin did after his popcorn mic drop. But Coach Saban has another opportunity this week to extend his record over former assistants to 25-0 as top-ranked Alabama heads to Texas A&M as an 18-point road favorite. The total is at 51, and every game Alabama has played in this season has gone well above 51, averaging nearly 64 combined points. Collin, do you like the total on this one?
I do like the total. I'm going to take a first half over, though, and not a full game over, and there's definitely reasoning behind that. Let's look at what happened last week. So Alabama is in a grinder of a game against Ole Miss. And why was that? Because they wanted to keep the Ole Miss team, Ole Miss offense and Matt Corral off the field. Best way to do that? Run Brian Robinson 40 times, which is, he got up close to 40 times. They were purposely grinding the game out, running the clock out, moving the chains, not looking for explosive plays to give the ball back to Ole Miss. They wanted a beatdown. And that doesn't necessarily mean that Alabama isn't capable of explosive plays from hitting on the outside. It just was the fact that he didn't want the Ole Miss offense on the field. That's not an issue with Texas A&M and Zach Calzada throwing the ball. I don't think Saban has any fears about the Texas A&M offense whatsoever. So with Brian Robinson a little bit dinged up and with Jace McClellan out for the season, we have a very shallow backfield for Alabama going into this game. What does that mean? Bryce Young is allowed to throw out to his explosive targets on the outside, Mechie and company. He's allowed to throw downfield. This is going to be more of a Bryce Young game passing the ball than it is Alabama running the ball because of what happened last week. And listen, we can't trust Zach Calzada to help us out with this first half over with his accuracy issues. But Texas A&M is a team that's top 25 in rush explosiveness. It's actually been a problem for Alabama's defense. Like one of the only problems that they have is rush explosiveness. Texas A&M actually has that. So I'm going to go first half over 27.
It's nice to see that your love affair with Calzada has ended, by the way. This is a pure pass for me. I make this, right around 17.5, 18. I should just take the free money with Alabama in the first half. I think they're 29 and 11 against the spread in the first half since 2018. But nothing here for me. I'll pass it to Brett, who I almost know just going to go
Alabama.
Alabama.
Where this one's going.
Alabama alum over here.
Not an Alabama alum, by the way. Look, last
Not
summer,
everyone.
Texas A&M coach Jimbo Fisher was speaking to boosters, and of course, Fisher's winless record against Nick Saban came up. Fisher told the boosters, quote, "We're going to beat his ass when he's there. Don't worry," end quote. When asked about Fisher's remarks, Saban responded, "And Goff, look, Alabama's going to tee off against the Aggies. Like Collin said, expect a big night from Bryce Young. I've got a future play on Young to win the Heisman, and he should put up some big numbers in this primetime matchup." In case you missed last week's show, or the week before that, or even the week before that, I'll repeat my favorite stat. Nick Saban has covered nearly 65% of the time as a double-digit favorite against Power 5 teams. He stays perfect against former assistants. I like Bama minus 18. And like Stuckey referenced, I'd also play Bama minus 11 in the first half. Yeah, roll Tide.
Can't knock you. I mean, you haven't been wrong on the Alabama picks yet this season. Next up, we have number 9, Michigan heads to Memorial Stadium for the first time since their loss back in 2012. Michigan has opened as a 3.5-point favorite after taking down Wisconsin last week, but that number has come down, looking around 2.5 now. Collin, is the Michigan hype real, or do you think Nebraska can test them today?
I'm certainly not a believer of what Michigan has been able to do so far. I mean, Michigan has done nothing against a list of directional schools and bad offenses to prove that they can push around this Nebraska defense that has been limiting explosive plays. They're top 25 in coverage grading, and they're 10th in finishing drives. And if you don't know what that stat is, that means points per opportunity once you get past the 40-yard line. When teams get the Nebraska defense past the 40-yard line, the Cornhuskers have been great this season at not letting teams get points on the board. I mentioned Michigan hasn't played a good offense this season. They certainly have not seen a player like quarterback Adrian Martinez. He's playing clean games, clean box scores. Scott Frost, and by the way, the number here is 3. The pick is Nebraska. The number is 3. If you got to do the minus 120, that's the play. I would not do the 2.5, but the 3. And listen, Scott Frost is always in these close games, and I mentioned that earlier. And that Nebraska seems to come up short overtime, crazy stuff happening. Get that +3. Scott Frost cashes in again as an underdog in a conference game with a really short spread.
Yeah, I agree. That 2012 meeting, by the way, an unranked Nebraska team in primetime beat a ranked Michigan team with a quarterback named Martinez. Pretty eerie. But I think that we see that happen again tonight. The Nebraska run defense is legit. This defense since that Illinois game has been playing extremely well. You do have to worry a little bit about special teams. They're one of the worst special teams in the country. Michigan's been really good. Turnovers, Martinez fumbles, and Michigan's just not turning the ball over. But I think this Michigan team is just it's overinflated right now after what they've done to a number of bad teams. They haven't been in a hostile environment and trailed yet. They jumped out to a lead and then just maintained that lead throughout. Look, they struggled with Rutgers' read option in the second half. Well, good luck with Martinez tonight. I think Nebraska finds a way. You just have to hope for, not 3 blocked punts by Nebraska.
Here's yet another game I disagree with Collin and Stuckey on. At this rate, I may suffer a worse beatdown than Cumberland against Georgia Tech if things don't go right this week. But anyway, look, Michigan has looked more impressive in the first month. I do agree that Nebraska has played a slightly tougher schedule. And the Huskers do what they usually do under Scott Frost, play just good enough to lose a close game. Since Frost came to Nebraska in 2018, the Huskers have lost 15 one-score games. That's more than any other team in the country. Congrats, Nebraska. That includes all 3 losses this year. I expect another close loss for the Huskers by 4 points. Michigan covers the field goal. Go Blue.
We lose by 1. That'll work. A loss by 1 works for us.
They'll get a safety on the last play. It'll push.
Great have it, round guys. It's time to get to our money line round robin. For those who don't know, a round robin is a series of smaller parlays made up of a larger list of teams that you select. So the more games you pick, the more parlay combinations you can create. Collin, you said your round robin this week was rock solid. Who are you starting us off with this week?
Yeah, well, if you listen to Big Bets on Campus podcast, Stuckey and I, it comes out late Thursday nights. We love all 130 of our FBS teams. We even handicap UConn and UMass, but we're going to start this Moneyline round robin off with a MAC game. The biggest discrepancy in finishing drives on the board is Eastern Michigan's offense, which is top 15, going against Miami of Ohio's defense, which is 128th in the nation. Eastern Michigan will get points up every time that they get into scoring position. Chris Creighton in a MAC game in conference, I'll take it all day.
I'll follow that up with an anchor here of TCU. Look, their defense should be a lot healthier this week. I think that'll be the difference against Texas Tech.
We talked about it on the podcast. Listen, Sam Pittman gets his teams up after big losses. Lane Kiffin does not. And, my Razorbacks run 69% of the time, and they snap to that dual threat quarterback and KJ Jefferson. They have a four-headed monster running the ball, and that is bad news for Ole Miss, who's 111th and defending the rush. Hey, Lane Kiffin and your defense, I've got my popcorn ready. It's going to be with here all day. Arkansas is going to win. Woo, pig, suey.
There's the Arkansas mention. I'll next go with West Virginia. I think there's some value in this number after their loss last week. But Baylor has just one impressive win, and it was fluky. Give me the Mountaineers.
Yeah, we're going to pivot over to the Pac-12. Oregon State's going to travel to Pullman to get into Nick Rolovitz's run and shoot offense. And I think he's going to get it home. Surprisingly, has a defense that's top 40 against rush and pass explosiveness, which is something that Oregon State lives by. Wazoo outright as a conference home dog here.
Yeah, I'll finish up with Wyoming coming off of a bye. Their run defense over the past couple of years has been great. They've seen this option before. They had extra time to prepare for it against Air Force. No elevation advantage for Air Force. Give me Wyoming here to pull off the mini upset.
Let's add to Brett's best bet of Duke. They're going to win outright. People are not paying attention. The Blue Devils have one of the top rushing attacks in the nation. Mateo Durant has 8 TDs already on the season. He averages 6 yards per carry. But quarterback Gunnar Holmberg, he has 6 TDs on the ground, like more than he's thrown for. That is scary news for a Georgia Tech team that cannot defend the rush and is near dead last in passing downs explosiveness. Duke wins outright.
It looks pretty rock solid to me. And a $10 win bet on those 7 teams pays $4,300. Take Collin and Stuckey's advice on this one, guys. Round robin by 2s and 3s. Now, you guys, you could be heard on the next show. We keep teasing it. Make sure you call our Bad Beat hotline, 959-BAD-BEAT. Tell us your thoughts on all the action today. Who are you siding with on all these battles? Thanks for joining us. You can follow all of our picks, anything we did not mention from the show, and anything from Collin, Stuckey, and Brett. Their picks are in the Action Network app. Make sure you check out the Big Bets on Campus podcast. That drops throughout the week. Good luck today, everyone, and we will see you again next Saturday for Big Bets on Campus Live.